when we talked about demand before, one of the other major determinants of demand is the level of a consumer's income. What we talked about before was the idea that for most people, most of the time, what they'll do when they have more money is buy more of a product or buy more expensive units of a product. Now, that's not always true. So how do you determine, based on income elasticity, what category a product falls into? And again, this is related to what we already did with demand. We're just taking it a little bit farther in a different direction. All right, so if we're talking about income elasticity, we want to know, for a given percent change in income, what does that do to the amount of a good that the consumer is purchasing? Okay? Now, income here being the independent variable and quantity depending on income. So quantity is your dependent variable. Now, 3 different categories of goods that we talked about last semester. We have normal. Most goods, for most people, are normal pretty much all the time. Then we have
That's why they call it normal.
Exactly. Then we have inferior goods, which would be goods for which, your income goes up and you stop buying them or you buy less.
Kmart shoes.
Yeah. Inferior goods would be ones that perhaps have a stigma for an individual consumer. You might know, for example, a lot of people who lived on 25-cent packs of ramen noodles when they were in college, or 20-cent packs.
I was going to say I couldn't afford the 25-cent ones. That's the quality ramen.
Oh,
that's the superior ramen. That's the top ramen.
But you may know people who lived on that garbage for, however long they were in college, who don't choose to go to the grocery store and buy it today. Because they don't ever want to eat another bowl of it as long as they live. For those people, that would be an inferior good. Mm-hmm. So normal, when you have more money, you buy more of it. Inferior, you have more money, you buy less. And there may be, for individual consumers, 1 or 2 products that are what we would call neutral. And I don't even remember if this is in your textbook or not, because it's so few products that a lot of books just kind of leave this one out. A neutral good would be one for which, even when you have more money, you're still spending the same amount on it. Very rare. Things like toothpaste, for example. For people who have serious brand loyalty to their toothpaste, their income doubles. Does that mean they're going to go out and buy twice as much toothpaste? Oh, well, no, I can brush my teeth 10 times a day. You'd have no enamel left. It's not a good idea. All right, but for those people, they're very odd. For most of us, we would probably say that we're still going to buy toothpaste as often as we need it and brush our teeth to the same degree, whether we have more money or not. For people who have that opinion, for them, toothpaste would be a neutral good. Okay? So those are your 3 possibilities. Now, how does this actually work out numerically for income elasticity of demand? All right. Let's say, for example, that you're making more money. You get a raise. Woohoo! Raise is good. And you have a bigger change in quantity, such that you get a positive number, or they both go down, and you get a, let's see, change in income, bigger change in quantity, we have a positive number. That would mean that we're dealing with a normal good, okay? So that the percent change in income is yielding a bigger change in quantity, okay? That's normal for most people. Now, if you have an increase in your income, which yields a decrease in quantity, maybe it's quantity that goes down to virtually nothing, okay? So that you're getting a negative you're buying a lot less based on your income going up, then that would be an inferior good. Now, what if we increase your income and your change in quantity is nothing because you're buying exactly the same thing you were buying before? That would be a neutral good. Okay? Because, as we know mathematically, 0 divided by any number gives us 0. So if you have a positive income elasticity, that's a normal good. If you have a negative income elasticity, that's inferior. And if it's 0, neutral good. All right, talking about elasticity, we need to change gears a little bit and look at it from the supply side of the market as well. Now, with an elastic supply curve, or a curve that has more price elasticity, or a greater degree of price elasticity of supply, you might see this represented different ways. That means, just like with a demand curve, that it's going to be more relatively flat. Okay, so this would be relatively more elastic. For a curve that is more steep, we would say that is relatively more inelastic. Or that the flatter curve has a greater price elasticity of supply, and the more vertical curve has a lesser degree of price elasticity of supply, if you want to get, real technical with it. Now, what determines, or what helps to determine how price elastic a supply curve is? One of the biggest things that you have to keep in mind is what time period you're considering. There are 3 possibilities for time period. The first one, if we're talking about the potential for an immediate reaction in the market to a change in price, is called the market period. The market period, or right after something happens, you really don't have a lot of ability as a company owner, as a plant manager, to react to a change. In the market period, you're kind of stuck with what you have. Getting a little bit longer than that, we would have the short run. Now, in the short run, you have some ability to alter your production, but you're still going to have some resources that you cannot change. You're going to have fixed plant capacity, for example. Fixed plant capacity, some fixed resources. Resources. Okay. So, fixed plant capacity. In the short run, some things are variable, but you've got at least one that is still fixed. That's what makes the short run. Now, moving beyond the short run, we can add the long run. And as I hope you remember, in the long run, all things are variable. So in the long run, you can alter your level of production and you can expand your plant capacity. So you have the capability to change production and capacity. So over time, we would expect that a very inelastic level of supply will become more elastic. As you have companies that are more able to react to what is going on in the market, then over time, you can have them go from a very inelastic situation to more elastic. So in the immediate term, when more things are fixed, you would expect that to be the case in the market, that it's more inelastic. Over time, when they can actually change their level of production and capacity to a much greater degree, more elastic, more able to adapt to what is happening in the